Hi, my name is Dylan Woods, and this presentation is on targeting next turn repair initiators with a barrier game. So this video will first answer what are next turn repair initiators, or NTRI, and then what is a barrier game, and finally it will provide instruction for how to target NTRIs with a barrier game. What is repair? Repair is a pragmatic communication function that seeks to resolve trouble in verbal interaction. Children typically begin making requests for clarification, which is doing repair, around 30 to 36 months of age. Repair can be self-initiated, that is, initiated by the speaker who produces the troubled utterance. Repair can also be other-initiated, that is, initiated by the listener who receives the troubled utterance. This presentation focuses on other initiation, specifically next turn repair initiators. When is repair needed? Well, an utterance can be troubled and thus require repair when the listener has difficulty with hearing, auditory processing, or semantic interpretation. If repair is needed but not done, communication breakdown occurs. Keep in mind that an utterance may not be heard due to a hearing deficit or due to competing environmental noise. When do NTRI occur in conversation? Using the turn-taking sequence between speaker A and speaker B presented here, NTRI can occur during speaker B's next turn or fourth turn. Although the next turn is primarily used for NTRI, the fourth turn presents another opportunity. For the repair to be successful, speaker A needs to recall their intended message for the troubled source utterance. Therefore, the NTRI is time sensitive and tends to occur in the next turn. There are a variety of possible NTRI that can be used. A comprehensive list of them is presented here. These include simple requests for clarification, such as, huh? What? Partial repetitions with rising intonation, and requesting additional information with the WH word. As can be seen, all of these NTRI types include a verbal response. Note that these are ordered hierarchically, targeting the trouble source with greater specificity. To ask, huh, is less specific than asking, where'd you say you put the keys? Greater specificity generally demonstrates greater understanding of the utterance. For a complete review of all 9 NTRI types, refer to Dr. Weber's 1993 Varieties of Questions in English Conversation. NTRI difficulty can be associated with difficulty knowing the rules or conventions for doing repair. That is, the child may not know that they can request clarification after a speaker's utterance can't be heard or understood. Difficulty doing repair can also be associated with difficulty with the speech act of requesting and or with social reciprocity elements like initiating and turn-taking. Decreased ability to do repair is associated with developmental language disorder, as well as populations with associated language disorder, such as intellectual disability, ASD, highly verbal ASD, attention deficit disorder, and psychiatric disorders such as depression and anxiety. Now that we've talked about next turn repair initiators, let's discuss barrier games. Barrier games generally entail having 2 participants, such as a clinician and client, sit across from one another, each with the same materials in front of them. A visual barrier is placed between the participants so that they can't see each other's materials. One participant gives instructions that the other participant follows, with the goal of both participants' materials appearing the same when the barrier is removed. So in this photo, we see the barrier in the middle, and we see that the participants have the same materials. It looks like they're dressing a teddy bear. We can imagine the boy is giving directions to the girl. so that she puts the correct scarf on the teddy bear so that their bears look the same. To succeed in barrier games, the spoken instructions need to be clear and accurate, and these instructions need to be heard and understood. Barrier games can target various communication skills to include vocabulary acquisition, syntax, articulation, descriptive language. This presentation demonstrates how to use the game to target NTRI, next turn repair initiators. The materials for a barrier game include a visual barrier, which can be a large book or folder, and 2 identical copies of materials, often a scene and various cutout pictures to be placed on the scene. Materials can be selected based on the client's interests and/or based on academic content that the client's learning in the classroom. As is the case for designing any therapeutic activity, it helps to know what the client's interested in and what they're learning in the classroom. Materials can be clinician designed and created. However, free and commercially available materials can be found at Magnatalk Matchup Adventures, Creatures and Critters Barrier Game, and Teachers Pay Teachers, among others. Here are the materials used for my demonstration video that you'll see shortly. I selected these materials based on my mock client's interest in mythical woodland creatures. I located the cutouts using Google Image Search, and I designed the scene using Image Creator, which is free AI software offered by Microsoft Bing. The barrier that I use in the demonstration video is a 3-ring binder standing on its side. In one of the clips, I demonstrate visual cueing support, for which I use a question mark icon that I made on pink paper. Here we see all the materials positioned during the game. My apologies in advance for the white balance issues with my photo and videos. So now let's discuss the third item on the agenda, how to target NTRI with a barrier game. NTRI can be targeted with a barrier game via clinician-devised sabotage. Very simply, the clinician produces the troubled utterance by using either nonsense words or mumbling when giving instructions to the client. This sabotage makes it so that the client can't hear or understand the clinician's instructions, which creates an opportunity for next turn repair initiation. So to demonstrate this therapeutic technique, I've asked my friend Janine to act as a late elementary age client who presents with NTRI difficulty. Although my mock client has typical language in terms of syntax, morphology, and semantics, classroom observations showed a lack of NTRI use when she didn't hear or understand the teacher's directions. In this clip, you'll see the clinician give brief instructions on how to play the game and on the importance of doing repair when information is not heard or understood. This clip doesn't include sabotage. 2 instructions are given normally, which the client follows. Let's watch. Okay, Janine. So I'm going to put my characters on my picture, and then I'm going to tell you where to put your characters so that our pictures look exactly the same. So I'm going to put my gnome where I want it to go. No peeking while I do this. Put my mushroom where I want it to go. My fairy. And my unicorn. Okay. So listen carefully when I tell you where to put your characters. If you don't hear me, or if you don't understand what I said, ask me to repeat myself, or ask me what the word means, okay?
Okay.
All right. Put the gnome under the bridge.
Okay.
Put the unicorn on the ground in front of the big rock.
Okay.
In this next clip, the clinician will give an instruction with sabotage using a nonsense word, and the client will fail to produce an NTRI. based on the recommendation of Paul et al. 2018, when the client doesn't initiate repair, the game is continued, with the clinician giving feedback once all the instructions have been given and the barriers removed. When the feedback is delivered, it's specific, highlighting the troubled utterance and the need for the client to have requested clarification. Let's watch.
Okay. Put the fairy on top of the Jim Jam.
Okay.
And put the mushroom on the grass in the bottom right corner.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see if our pictures look exactly the same. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Look at that. My gnome is under the bridge. Did you put your gnome under the bridge? Yes, you did. Nice job. Our mushrooms are in the same place. What about our fairies? Are the fairies in the same place? They're not. You know, when I gave the instructions, I used a silly word. I said, put the fairy on top of the Jim Jam. Jim Jam's not a real word, is it? Have you ever heard that word before? You know, if somebody uses a word that you haven't heard before, you can ask them what it means. You should ask them what it means. All right?
Okay.
You could say, in this case, what's a Jim Jam? And I'd say, oh, did I say Jim Jam? That's a silly word. I meant to say put the fairy on top of the cabin. So when you hear a word that you don't understand, or if you can't hear somebody, what are you going to do?
I'm gonna ask them to say it again.
Ask them to say it again. Very good. What about our unicorns? Are the unicorns in the same place? They are. They're on the ground in front of the big rock. You know, I bet if we did this again, we could get our pictures to look exactly the same. Especially if you ask for me to explain myself. If you ask me, what does that mean? Or if you ask me, speak louder, please.
Okay.
Want to give it a shot?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, let's remove our characters.
Keep in mind that once the client's familiar with the game and the expectation that they use next turn repair initiators, less time is needed for giving instructions and providing feedback, and more time can be dedicated to creating NTRI opportunities to ensure that the client gets enough practice. Now, pending the client's needs, support, of course, can be provided to ensure the client experiences success with using next turn repair initiators. In this brief clip, you'll see the clinician provide visual and verbal cueing. For verbal cueing, the clinician will emphasize the nonsense word, saying it more loudly and with a slightly slower rate, which helps the client notice the nonsense word. For visual cueing, the clinician will point to the question mark icon when the nonsense word is produced, which is another form of calling the client's attention to their inability to understand the instruction.
Put the Finook on the cabin.
Finook? What's a Finook?
Did I say Finook? I meant fairy. Put the fairy on the cabin.
Oh.
Nice job asking me what it means. Okay, now put the mushroom on the grass.
Another form of support not demonstrated here would be providing a list of possible requests to which the client can refer when needing to use an NTRI. This would be a bank of written NTRIs, such as, please say that again, or what's a blank? This kind of resource would reduce the cognitive linguistic demands required of next turn repair initiation. As with other therapeutic techniques, Identifying the needed type and level of support requires some experimentation. And pending the client's success, support can be reduced to guide the client toward independent use of the target skill. To ensure that this skill is being used in important contexts like home and the classroom, consider using the cueing methods in those contexts. For instance, once the client's successful using cued NTRI during barrier games, the cueing methods can be used in the classroom when instructions of the teacher include unfamiliar words. The SLP could provide cueing via push-in services, or the teacher or paraprofessional can be trained to deliver the cueing themselves. Across the barrier game activities, the clinician can track the client's NTRI accuracy as a percentage. For example, the client produced 4 NTRI out of 5 opportunities, which would be 80% accuracy. The client's needed levels of support can also be tracked. The clinician may find it appropriate to monitor the type of NTRI used with the goal of having the client improve the specificity of their request for clarification. Here are my references. I hope you found this presentation helpful. Remember that barrier games can be a fun way to target the important skill of next turn repair initiation. Thanks for watching.